million people. 17 to 20 million people. And Maine, just Maine, the whole state only has 1.5 million. But even just to put it into perspective, even Michigan, Michigan has what? Somewhere around 9 million, somewhere around there. It's kind of hard to be able to fathom a city of that size. It's huge. And studied Portuguese there, and fortunately we were able to go to another city, just a little bit smaller, and it's 500,000, 600,000 people are in the city of Sorocaba. And so we are going about and doing church planting in this city. It's about 1.5 hours west of São Paulo, and just being able to start churches. Last time we were here, which was about 5 years ago, the last time we were here, I was basically giving an update of how we were finishing up a church plant. And that church plant's name? Anybody with a really good memory? Hope Baptist Church, right? And so Hope Baptist Church, we were able to leave that over with nationals. And with a national pastor, and they're continuing till this day, doing well. And now we are beginning a new church plant. Igreja Batista Vitória, or Victory Baptist Church. Victory Baptist Church. And so that is what we were doing on this last term, was beginning that new church plant, right from scratch, beginning to see the Lord's direction, where He wanted it to be, where He wanted us to be able to start a church, and up until the point that we find it today. And so, without going into explaining all that ministry first, I'd rather show you the visual part of that, show you the video presentation at this time so that you can better visualize what was going on during our last term down there in Sorocaba, southern Brazil. Family. Ben and the Jacobs family. Ben and Dunny serving with Baptist Mid-Missions in southern Brazil. Church planting in the city of Sorocaba. You remember Sabrina Joy as she was with us in our last furlough. And although she was not the little premature baby in the incubator anymore, she still was a teetering toddler. The 2-year-old has grown into a toothless second grader. She has a tender heart already for the things of God, and it was a joy of mine to lead her to Christ at a family camp when she was 6. Most of you just saw the bulging belly representing our little Melody Love. She represents how time flies by as this bubbling personality is now in kindergarten. And Josiah Hunter? Yes, he is our bouncing bundle of boy. He is not easily missed. Are we ready? Ministry, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2. Technical difficulties. No direction. No property. And not enough money. What now? Where do we go? When? How much? We wanted to get busy, but the Lord said, wait. The Lord led in the next months to a growing neighborhood, Parque São Bento. Park of St. Ben? But as the money came in, the dollar went down, and the property prices kept going up. Are we actually going forward? Okay, we have $60,000. Now it is $80,000? Okay, now we have $80,000. Now it is $100,000? The dollar dropped again? Christmas comes and goes. New Year's 2012. VBS special speaker is Nebuchadnezzar. Scary 5-day vacation in the hospital. English camp. Carnival youth camp. The months fly by. Lord, open fields in every direction, and still no good lots for sale? After 5 months of waiting, on the day we are about to settle on getting a piece of property not really that well located, the realtor says, just 2 hours ago, a piece of property came up for sale that I know you are going to love. He was right. Perfect and cheaper. Where do we sign? We try to sign the next week. The owner goes in for emergency surgery. He's in the hospital for days. More waiting. Then, the phone call. problem with the paperwork. The property is not his? What? He's not able to prove that it is his to sell? You have to be kidding me. We have to start over? A whole week goes by, and the realtor finally calls again. False alarm. The guy does have the paperwork. The property is his. Party time again. Why did we have to go through the agony of 3 weeks of suspense with emergency surgery and paperwork problems? Guess why? God knew that during these 3 weeks the dollar would go up so much that we saved almost $12,000. Yeah, you can say it. Cha-ching. God is good. Finally, back to ministry. 5, 4, 3, 2. Not the exact type of garage you are imagining, but we were not complaining. God used this family's generosity to testify of Christ on this street as children came to visit from many different homes. 4 different couples also came during this time from that same street. Vanessa was one of those adults who was saved and baptized and became a member of our church along with her 2 children. After waiting for so long, it was almost viciously satisfying to see the bulldozer trampling down the small trees and bushes. Soon, the waves of green grass were transformed into a blanket of red earth. Days later, we were digging trenches, drilling footings. One could already envision the meeting area with Sunday school classroom within the labyrinth of interlacing re-rod. The proverbial blanket was now changing colors once again, from red to gray, as we smoothed out the cement on the coldest night of the year until 2 in the morning. Exciting times. A group of 33 people came down to help us for 10 days. And what a 10 days it was. We didn't even have a building. The garage didn't even fit 33 people. What did we do? We took the neighborhood by storm. We did a VBS in the public school. We used the bathroom in the nearby bakery, although many on the team got sidetracked. We presented the gospel through silent plays in the parks. The public basketball court was used for a teen activity. Many contacts were made. Crash course in bricklaying, and soon there was cement flying from both boys and girls for 6 long days to finish 8 rows of all of our walls of Victory Baptist Church. This team helped put us on the map in our neighborhood. After the VBS, we started our ministry with children. No finished walls, no roof. Actually, it resembled a cool man-made maze more than a church. But we just brought in chairs and a tarp each Saturday as the rest of the walls went up and the cement ceiling was poured. Using different games, creative Bible stories, and loving these children as Jesus shows us in the Bible, it was neat to see some of these children from rough backgrounds come to a saving knowledge of Christ. We were then able to use the Bible Club as a springboard to our Sunday school classes. Our afternoon services then moved to the evening. Spending time in these kids' lives are what opened up the doors into many of the adults that were soon to come. We have been able to partner with our sister churches in doing children camps as well. We are thankful and have taken advantage of many mission team groups to not just do construction, but also VBS, which have had many themes from bugs to space. The amount of adults coming to our church began to grow. We met in people's homes for fellowship, games, and of course food. To make inroads for the gospel, we emphasized different activities like Mother's Day and Father's Day. Instead of doing the normal teen carnival camp time, since we didn't have many teens, we did family camps on 2 different occasions. The Lord blessed as we saw many different adults coming to know Christ as their Savior, like longtime neighbors of our co-workers, Ayrton and Mara. Fernanda and her mother Sueli. Newly saved family Fabiano and Virginia. Other families came our way, like Tarcio and Lucieli, Samuel, Douglas and Deborah. Other faithfuls that have been with us since the beginning, like Luciano and Lillian, and Getulio and Sueli. And there have also been many others who have been a part of our church. Another recently saved couple that you wish you could photocopy so that you could have a dozen just like them in your ministry, Tiago and Gisele. We have literally seen them growing right in front of our eyes as they continue to get involved more and more. Our children in our church were getting a little older. A few had gone from kids to teens, like some of our first kids, André, Liza, Jade, Giovanna, and Felipe. It spittered and spat for a few months. Some of the young teens began to falter, and then it began to solidify and grow. Igor came to know Christ at a youth rally. Another teen, over a period of 2+ years, came to know Christ. First time I met Lucas, he was wearing a Chicago Bulls rose jersey with boots, wanting to play basketball. He had just moved from his hometown named Rattlesnake. He beat me in a game of one-on-one. Must have been the boots. Then Alex came to know Christ through a Bible study. Alex, a young teen with a contagious smile and a quick laugh. We encouraged him to go to another church due to the proximity, but God wanted to use him in our church. He became an integral part of our growing youth group. He was older than the rest and began to be a leader as he quickly grew in his spiritual life. His brother Oliver came to know Christ as well. Different teen camps in the last 2 years has also helped many of the teens with different decisions. We want the Brazilians to have missions in their hearts as well. Pastor Lucio and family have been supported by our church for about 2 years now on a monthly basis. We took a missions trip to his church as we duplicated a VBS we had done in our own church. We also conducted a teen activity. Adriano, a Brazilian missionary, came to Victory Baptist Church and challenged us as he presented his mission field of Argentina. This message made a huge impact in our already growing teenager, Alex. He sensed that the Lord was calling him into ministry. He struggled back and forth for quite a few months. But then, at 18 years of age, he surrendered to God's call and has since started seminary in our Bible college down in southern Brazil. Pray that the Lord will continue to strengthen and guide him in his preparation for the ministry. I had jokingly once said that it would be virtually impossible to wrap this box of 2,000 square feet of my least favorite color, gray. Maybe I was wrong. Our retaining wall was built as we poured our parking lot, and then we plastered the walls as we started to wrap our present as different teams came down. And lots of tile. Wall and floor tile was laid in the kitchen and in the bathroom and in our Sunday school classrooms and our meeting area. And paint of various colors was being flung about both inside and outside. Bye-bye, gray. Although it is not being used yet, we got our second story up and our building covered, as red clay blocks were laid and our rafters and roofing was placed on top. We look forward to wrapping the second floor as the Lord provides the paper. My co-workers, Sean and Donna Alexander, and their 2 children, Andrew and Anna Shea, went on their normal furlough a year before we left. We are thankful for Pastor Sidney and family, who are Brazilians that have worked alongside us for this last year. They were a huge blessing and a joy to work with, and will continue to lead our flock in our absence
and until our co-workers return. We also pray that if the Lord so desires, that Pastor Sidney might be the Brazilian pastor of this church when it is ready to go on its own. We are thankful for the souls that have come to know Christ, the people that have been baptized, and the spiritual growth we have seen in the people as they began to take over different roles in the church, like teaching Sunday school, giving devotionals, being faithful in their giving. Please continue to uphold Igreja Batista Vitória in your prayers.
And as you can see, it looks a lot like a church, right? Exactly. And we're just really thankful for that as the Lord has continued to bless. We're a lot further along than we ever imagined being with the church plant for the building-wise. And also, too, people-wise, we are averaging right around 40 to 45 people that are coming out on a regular basis on the Sunday night. Down there in Brazil, everything's the opposite, right? I don't know if it's because you go across the equator or what it is, but actually it's the evening service that's our bigger service. The morning service is a little bit smaller, although we still have a pretty good group that comes out, anywhere from 30, even as much as up to 40 as well in the Sunday school time. And so we are excited already about what the Lord is doing down there in Brazil and seeing how He is continuing to lead. Ask for you to continue to pray. We are wanting to be able to see that work handed over into national hands. And as we go back on our next term, Dunny and I and our family will be looking at being able to continue to see that church continue to grow. And prayerfully, we are shooting for the goal of being able to see that work finished up in the next term. And then you basically start that whole process all over again. And we've been encouraged as well. Dunny and I, we've been back here in the States for about 5 months now, and it's been interesting to see how the Brazilians have also gotten busy, during this time as well. I had mentioned that Pastor Sidney, he is the Brazilian, and my co-worker Sean and Donna Alexander and their family, they actually just went back about 2 weeks ago. And so there was about 5 months where they were by themselves, I guess you could say. But we've always been very impressed with Pastor Sidney and his leadership. And it was neat to be able to see the Brazilians continuing to stay busy. July, remember how I told you it's just the opposite down there? Winter break. July. Don't get it mixed up though. There's no snow. Yes, I say the same thing. I grew up in Maine, but I've been getting used to the fact of not needing to go through the winter time down in Brazil over all these years. And so during their winter break, they have like a month off, kind of like we do on our winter break. They have a month off, and so a lot of times they'll do like a vacation Bible school. And when Dunny and I left, we weren't saying, "Oh, make sure you do a vacation Bible school," or along those lines. And so it was really neat for us, and we found out later on that they decided on their own. All right, it's July, and we're going to do a vacation Bible school. So they did a 3-day vacation Bible school, and then they also decided to do a teen emphasis time as well. So they had 3 different nights that they did. We didn't really call it VBS, but it was something similar in the fact that they had 3 different special nights for teenagers as well as an outreach. And then the couple that I mentioned that is people that would like to make photocopies of. They're such a blessing, and they really have. They've grown in a mighty way. He also decided, I'm going to try to use English. He's a very good English speaker. He says, I want to try to use English as a way to get people to give out the gospel, to get people to come to church on Thursday night. He was actually offering English classes with the idea and the goal of trying to use that as a way to be able to give out the gospel. And we've already seen him being used already in a huge way in just bringing lots of visitors to the church. And also teenagers too, as he has an English school that he's the head of. And so it's been neat being able to see how the Lord has used their lives. And what was interesting is that it was a team, a small missions team, that actually helped us to get in contact with him. We used that team to be able to present the gospel in his school. And he wasn't saved. And then through a Bible study, he did finally get saved. And so it's neat to be able to see how how the Lord uses different people to be able to reach other people, and those people reach other people, and just kind of seeing a lot of that domino effect. So it's been a joy of ours. And then also too, as I showed right there in the video with Alex, Alex has been a neat blessing to be able just to see the Lord continuing to work in his life. He's 18, comes from a really rough background. Most of he has 2 or 3 different cousins that are even in jail right now just because of the drugs right in his neighborhood. He actually lives in the roughest neighborhood in our city, and that's where he grew up, right there in that neighborhood. And so it's been interesting to see how the Lord just really had already, planned before time that he was going to use this kid. Even before he was saved, you could see some character already. And through that, the Lord began working in his heart, and he's now in Bible college. And so he's finishing up his first year of Bible college, and he'll be finishing up actually this December. That's when their year finishes up, at the end of December. And continue to pray for Alex as he continues to see where the Lord would lead for him. I talked to him about a month ago, and he said, Lord confirmed once again his calling at a missions conference down at the Bible college. And so we're excited about what the Lord was going to be able to do also through this young man. And when you're able to see the video, presentation, there's lots of things going on. There's lots of faces, lots of excitement, and many things of that. And we're very content and happy and thankful to the Lord for what he has done. But at the same time, we also realize that when it comes to the church planting, that still was the easiest part. The hardest part is still yet to come. And if you think about the idea, or what the idea of the church planting, you'll understand a little bit about that. Because we're wanting to be able to leave that work over into national hands. And what does every solid local church need? It needs strong families. It needs people that are really dedicated to it. Because all of us know, especially all of us that are a little bit longer in our Christian faith, and maybe it's been more than 10 years, 15, and we go back and realize that you need to serve the Lord not just based on emotions, right? And the Brazilians have a lot of that emotional part to them. They're very exciting people. They're always very hospitable. They're always wanting to be able to not to offend and all of those different things. And they're an exciting group to work with. But at the same time, we realize our faith can't be based on those emotions. Can't be based on those emotions. And so we need to be able to see people that are going to stay through it, through the thick and thin. People that are going to be there for the long term. And so as we begin to go back, we'd ask for your prayers, that the Lord will give us wisdom. Wisdom in knowing when is the right time to step out, and then also not to leave too early. In order to be able to leave a solid church plant. Because obviously the goal is to be able to see that church, continuing to be able to be a light in their neighborhood for decades, literally decades to come. And so we want that church to be founded and firmly founded on Christ. So pray for Igreja Batista Vitória. You will probably translate it into your prayers as Victory Baptist Church right there in Sorocaba. Pray for that church. Pray also, too, that the Lord will continue to guide, to be able to continue to guide us in the near future. I've been down in Brazil for 13 years. 13 years serving as a missionary. As you all know, Dunny Dunny's been down there all of her life, but then Dunny and I were married in 2005, so we've been working together as a family since then. My co-workers, the Alexanders, I worked with Ed, who is the head of the seminary right now, and I also worked with his brother Sean, and I'm still continuing to work with them. Those two brothers went to Sorocaba about 25. I'm not exactly sure the exact how many years, but I know it's 25 plus years ago that they went down to Sorocaba. And one of their goals was to be able to start 5 solid church plants in that city of Sorocaba. Victory Baptist Church is actually church plant number 5. And so, in so many ways, it's kind of a huge rejoicing moment as we've been able to see the Lord just slowly blessing over all these years. But we're looking at what next? Where's the next? Sorocaba has 600,000, and they're growing. They're growing every year. Actually, where we are in Parque São Bento, property prices are high, as you saw there, super high. The Lord was able to get us some property, but it's a growing area. People are literally moving in by the thousands into that area of Parque São Bento. And we know there's other areas in Sorocaba where that will happen as well. And so there is definitely room. We could possibly plant another church in Sorocaba, or maybe the Lord will lead us to be able to go to another outlying city in the state of São Paulo. And so we also do covet your prayers that the Lord will also bless on that. And don't have much time here this morning, so wanted just to be able to also just mention too a little bit about the missionaries. The other thing that's been kind of neat for us there in Brazil is being able to see some of the Brazilians also beginning to plant churches. And I mentioned that Alex came from a really rough background, and he's actually in one of the more dangerous neighborhoods right there in Sorocaba, and there's actually a Brazilian planting a church in that church plant. That's why I mentioned in my video we were kind of encouraging him to go to another church because of the close proximity. He actually lives in that neighborhood, and so it would be very easy for him to go to that church. But the Lord had other reasons. After his father got saved, his stepfather actually got saved, and we had a good bond with him, and so it was obvious that his father would want to come to our church. And so through that, he became a part of it. We have a Brazilian, though, that's actually planning a church right there in that neighborhood. And Pastor Lúcio, that I showed a picture of that we support, he's already started a church in a small city called Boituva, and now he is starting a new church in Porto Feliz, which is literally only about a half an hour away from where our church is in Victory Baptist Church. And so it's been neat to also see some of the Brazilians as well working together and being able to see churches being planted as well right there in Sorocaba, Brazil. So we have just a few more minutes. I was just wondering, maybe some of you might have a question that you might have about the ministry that you saw in the video and was able to just curious or wanted to be able to know the answer. Don't fight. You guys are brothers, right? No fighting. All right, go ahead.
What's your current support level?
Right now, I'm right in the process of looking at that with my mission board right now. I'm actually kind of corresponding with them right now. But we weren't quite at 100% when we left, and we were closer to around 90%. And I do know that that's going to go a little bit lower after they do all of the different adjustments. So we're still needing to be able to get some more support to get closer, get back up closer to around the 90%. Is one of our goals. Brother, you had one too? Homeschooling. Right now, that's my background actually. That's what I went to school for. Elementary education. Taught a couple of years in Saginaw at a small Christian school. Taught even on the field in Brazil for 9 months. I taught my co-workers kids, Sean Alexander, and then his kids, and also Mike Jewell, different kids that I taught down there in Brazil. And it was actually kind of thinking that maybe the Lord was leading me in that area. And then the Lord slowly began to lead me towards the church planting. And so just having that as a background, also English as my first language, I've done a little bit more of that load there in Brazil and teaching school. So Sabrina and Melody are second grade and kindergarten. Josiah, well, I'm already waiting for when he comes into school. Yes. We're going to be able to use that. That's a good question. We're going to be using that second floor, just basically like what you use the church right here. That will be kind of our main auditorium, and it would be about 36 feet. I don't know what the width of this one is. Do you know? Somebody know? 36 feet. Probably a little bit smaller than this, a little bit. The inside of it. Property is just really, really expensive in Brazil. The dollar was not strong when we bought the property. The dollar was going lower and lower. The Brazilian economy was doing real well. And but yeah, property is just really expensive. The property of my house is only 15 feet wide. The property. So you can imagine my house goes from one side of the property to the next. And so that's one of the biggest dilemmas down there in not just Brazil, but in other South American countries too. These big cities, they just totally jam-packed one upon the other, and the government doesn't really allow too much from the property. So, yes. The exchange rate today is a lot better. Just to kind of give you a little bit, when we were first looking at property, we were way down to about 160 to 180. That's where it was. For every dollar, you get 160 to 180. Then during some of that wait time, the dollar went all the way from about 180 to about 205 to 210. Today, it's 330. Yeah. Oh, the current election, I saw that it did go down a little bit, but I didn't see much. But basically, the biggest reason why it fluctuated was because of Brazil. Brazil had their big corruption scandal, and their president was impeached, and you saw some of that during the Olympics. They were kind of mentioning a lot of those different things, and so Brazil really took a big hit economically, and still is. They still are, and we'll see where the dollar goes from here. 2 years later, they'll be electing another president instead of just having the vice president stepping in for the president that was impeached. So, dollar goes up all the time. Different things. Yes.
To what extent do the local Brazilians have contact with, reach out to the indigenous people along the Amazon? Is there much interaction between the people who live in the outlying areas and those in the cities? And, do the Brazilian believers themselves take an active role in getting out into those areas and preach the gospel to those native people?
Yeah, I would say kind of yes and no, a little bit of both. Obviously, in the Amazon, it's very important that the Brazilians do it because basically indigenous and those groups of people they're not even allowed. Americans aren't even allowed into those areas. Brazil has taken very much of a tight role, especially in the Amazon region, of some of these unreached groups or somewhat unreached groups. So a lot of times American missionaries aren't allowed to go back in there like they used to be able to do. And so that's really that much more important to have the Brazilians doing that in the Amazon region. Yes, we have seen some good positive of Brazilians doing that outreach, as I mentioned. Just a few of them right in our nearby area, but still, the Brazilians are a very laid-back group of people, and so many times they don't always have that, that go-get-it attitude, like let's just go over there and let's go do that. So sometimes they do that vision is lacking at times. But we are happy as well when we have seen that vision begin to increase. So, been good. This ends at 20:25.
Yeah, we didn't hear about it.
Okay. Well, thank you for the good questions. Thank you for interest in the ministry, and Trust that the being able to see the many different people that have come to know Christ and the ministry is an encouragement, and we're very thankful for it, because you never know. One of the adults that was on the video, Ayrton, one of the very first ones I mentioned, Ayrton, one of the first adults, saved later on in life, in his 70s, and we just found out about 2 months ago that he passed away. And so it's sad when you hear that news or I see his picture up on the video,